Cyber warfare and covert operations don't belong to the Russians alone. Far from it. After the attacks of 9/11 and the subsequent war on terror, the US president amassed unprecedented powers to conduct covert operations, to spy, to launch drone attacks, and even, in extraordinary circumstances, to kill American citizens anywhere around the world.
The broad, sweeping ability of the United States government to spy on Americans, to kill people overseas, even American citizens, without due process. I think we bombed 7 countries since 9/11. So I think it's a remarkable expansion of executive power.
James Risen is a Pulitzer Prize-winning reporter for the New York Times who covers national security issues. He's so good at it that the Obama administration spent 7 years trying to put him in jail for refusing to reveal his sources. We asked him how was the Obama administration on freedom of the press.
Well, the simple record speaks for itself. They have prosecuted more whistleblowers than all other administrations combined, and they've conducted a series of investigations into journalists who try to investigate what the government is doing.
Charlie Savage analyzed the imperial reach of the president in his book, Power Wars.
There's a tendency in America whereby the president keeps accumulating powers from one president to another president, and not one of them have given up any of the powers that they've accumulated.
I think you're absolutely right. I call this the one-way ratchet effect. And the hallmark of the Obama presidency in these national security areas has been to put these extraordinary powers and policies and programs on a much firmer legal basis. In 2014, when ISIS sweeps back out of Syria and is sort of rapidly gobbling up territory in Iraq, President Obama starts bombing them, right. To help the Iraqi government, and says to Congress, it would be nice if you authorized this, but
I don't need it.
But I do not need it because this is part of that old war, the existing Al-Qaeda war. And people are like, wait, is that true? But the Congress then doesn't act. Right. And so it's not purely a story of seizing of powers by people in the White House. It's also a story of legislative failure.
The Washington Post has been keeping U.S. presidents honest since Watergate. Investigative journalist Dana Priest specializes in the top-secret powers of the president.
It seems that whenever every president comes in, that he just grabs everything that was accumulated from his predecessor and leaves behind even a bigger presidency, more imperial presidency.
Bush, too, really took executive power and pushed it to its limit in national security. Right. That's why, you know, he got away with going to war without declaring war and all this. Right. Obama did that in a different way. He did it he used the secret war mechanics, the CIA, the JSOC, you know, special operations and drones, and he did more of that, but not necessarily more of the conventional war.
He might have prioritized, but he didn't use any of it.
He didn't give up anything that he said he would give up when he became president, except for the techniques that were the most controversial, which we just talked about, the waterboarding, the CIA secret prisons.
Trump disagrees.
They said, what do you think about waterboarding? I said, I like it a lot, and I don't think it's tough enough.
When General Hayden was asked about, you know, if there would be waterboarding again under Trump, and he said, well, he's going to have to bring his own bucket, because certainly we're not going to do that.
General Hayden is always good for a quote. And he was the head of the CIA.
Exactly.
And he knows the workforce. And he knows that most of them would never go back and do that. I think even
certainly their lawyers are not going to let them.
Exactly.
And now, Mr. Trump is going to be inheriting all of that, right?
He will. He's going to be inheriting a more efficient, more lethal system of secret warfare. What Obama tried to do to leave to the next president, and they worked hard on this, is coming up with the rules of engagement for that, so that he actually had put together a playbook on what it would take to kill somebody with a drone who you didn't see do an act of terrorism. What kind of evidence could you use? How circumstantial could the evidence be? I think it's because he realized how dangerous this sort of warfare is if you don't have rules around it.
But the president-elect, or President Trump, could keep the assets and the hardware and get rid of the software.
Absolutely.
The guidelines.
Absolutely.
The question is, how did Donald Trump pull it off?
Boy, did we
In
do
one
well
word,
in the South.
populism. Like Obama, Trump was elected because people were desperate for change. He whipped his supporters into a frenzy, promising to overthrow the establishment.
There is nothing the political establishment will not do, no lie that they won't tell, to hold their prestige and power at your expense.
But that's not just Obama's legacy. It's the Clintons' legacy. It's the Bush's legacy. It's America's legacy.
Now, what happened, in fact, in my view, is Reagan cut the taxes on the rich very sharply. We entered into the famous era of greed is good. Inequality started to soar. Our elections became pay-for-play politics where first it's $1 billion, then $2 billion, then $3 billion, then $5 billion, then $6 billion. This election cycle, $7 billion of campaign financing. $7 billion. That's a lot of influence bought by a lot of very rich people and a lot of very powerful corporations. And that has controlled American politics now for 36 years, and we are not done yet.
The vote for Trump may be seen as a cry of protest against the elites. But if his cabinet nominees are any indication, that's not going to change. It's going to be a government of the rich, by the rich, for the rich, with a few generals for good measure. In other words, more of the same, but worse.
So here in Washington, D.C., one of the few debates that people honestly engage in, one of the last debates left to us, is the debate between those who think that America is an oligarchy and those who think it's a plutocracy.
And you're leaning
one or the
towards?
other. I'm going to say both.
And inequality continues to grow and expand in the country.
You know, here in America, our foreign policy is dictated by the military-industrial complex. Our energy policy is dictated by big oil and big polluters. And our monetary policy and our economic policy is dictated by Wall Street.
Here we are on the eve of Trump's inauguration, and I'm still wondering how history will judge Barack Obama.
Look forward to being with
What
you many, many
did
more
Obama
times.
accomplish? Will Trump be his legacy? Obama rescued the economy. He re-regulated the banks somewhat. But these too big to fail financial institutions became bigger. He passed a healthcare system, legalized gay rights, but also deported 2.5 million people. He downsized the military, but also enhanced and expanded the use of drones, surveillance, and special forces. He signed key nuclear agreements, but also approved a $1 trillion modernization of the U.S. nuclear arsenal. And Obama helped achieve an international agreement on climate change, but greatly failed the people of the Middle East. In short, it's a mixed record. President Obama might have been a liberal at home, but he was a conservative abroad. He proved that a black man could get the job done and do it as well or better than most white men, with grace and courage. No one will take that away from him.
Yes, we can.
His election was consequential. His rhetoric, inspirational. His leadership, controversial. It remains to be seen after the reckoning if his legacy was an aberration or a transformation of America.